So, curiosity may have killed the cat, but for entrepreneurs everywhere, it's the spark that ignites creativity and success. Hey everybody, Shanice here. So, the past week we talked about the place that skills and the place that passion has in our businesses as entrepreneurs. But curiosity ends up being one of those things that we tend to sometimes forget. Maybe it's not highlighted as much and can sometimes take a back burner. And in this video, we will explore why creativity is essential for entrepreneurs, how curiosity fuels it, and actionable ways for you to go ahead and cultivate that creative edge. So one of the most probably memorable things that I ever created when I was in the corporate world was this program that really dealt with leadership and getting people ready for leadership. And it's kind of funny how it happened. I was actually outside in my garden, working in the yard, getting things ready. It was my day off, and kind of in the back of my mind, I was just meandering over this problem that we had. And the problem was that we were about to have to hire a ton of new assistant managers where we hadn't had to hire any for a year. So imagine this, we haven't had to hire anybody for a year. We hadn't been prepping anybody for a year. And we just got a notification from senior leadership that we were going to need to go ahead and hire anywhere from about 15 to 20 people. And so I was kind of pondering over this, and I was like, okay, what are some things that we can do to get people ready? What are some things we can go ahead and do proactively now to make sure that, should we find ourselves in this situation again, we're prepared, we're ready, we have a really solid bench. And I came up with this program that we ended up calling Individual Contributor to Leadership. And it was basically a 10-week program where myself and some of the other senior leaders kind of held individuals' hands and walked with them week over week over week and got them ready for assistant manager interviews. So came up with the plan, literally, like I said, outside, just kind of pondering over this problem. What can we do to make sure we don't find ourselves in a frenzy moving forward? Ran inside, jotted some notes down on a whiteboard, and then ended up actually putting together a proposal, showing my leader. She liked it so much, we rolled it out. And then that year, we ended up with every single person that had been hired as an assistant manager came through that program. And it was so successful that we ended up using that same program throughout the entirety of North America. And I bring that story up to really highlight and showcase, this idea of creativity, right? Like it wasn't something where I sat down and said, okay, what have we done before? How can we refine things that we've done in the past? I really took the idea of let's approach this from a whole new ball game. Let's really take a moment to understand a completely new way to look at the scenario and come up with a creative and innovative way to address this particular program. So with that, when you think about these creative solutions, they can really help you stand out in a crowded market, right? In a crowded marketplace, what are your ingenious ways, right, that you bring to the table to solve some of these problems that your customers have? For us, it was an influx of new leaders coming in and no way to prep people for these interviews, right? But as you think about the problems that your market's facing, as you think about, your customers and where they need help, what's a new way, what's an innovative way that you can help them get to their goals that much faster that maybe hasn't been tried before, right? And it really helps with that idea of problem solving, right? You're looking at those problems from a new lens. You're trying to bring in this fresh perspective. And it really ties into this idea of curiosity. You have to be able to put yourself in the situation and say, how can I look at this, like I said, from a new lens? How can I look at this from a place of discovery? Sometimes that's taking a pause and asking a lot of questions, right? Sometimes as business entrepreneurs, we get so solution minded that we stop to say, okay, what are all the different ways that I can look at this problem? How can I ask one more question, two more questions, three more questions about this problem so I have a really full view of what's going on so that maybe I can bring a different solution to the table that's never been brought before, never been explained in a certain way before. And then the second thing around that is when you think about curiosity and you think about, just being in a state of wonder and not being afraid to kind of pause. And like I said, think outside the box. When you think about that, you have to say, okay, how does my curiosity fuel my creativity? So when you think about curiosity, it helps keep you open to new opportunities. You find yourself asking like, what if a lot more, and, why not? So when you're asking these types of questions, it helps you, again, think outside the box. And I know that I keep bringing up thinking outside the box, but I feel like we can get stuck in a rut of this is the way that things are done. This is the way that people kind of go about, their daily lives. These are the ways that we address problems and solutions. But the more that you can use a different perspective, the easier it is to tap into that creativity. So be curious, right? Pretend like you're a small child even, right? How would a small child approach a situation, approach a solution? How would somebody who's not an expert in your field approach the solution, approach the problem? And think about it in terms of that way. Another thing about curiosity, it really does encourage this idea of lifelong learning, right? Like we talk so much about being an expert in our field and, kind of being a go-to person, but sometimes we have to also take that pause and say, okay, what can I learn today? What can I explore? What can I absorb? What new information can I bring into my own self about this topic? So never, ever, ever lose that idea of being a lifelong learner. For years and years and years, my mantra was always every day I try to learn something new and I teach something new. And the teach something new part didn't come in from a place of I want to be the one to know this. It really came from a place of the only way that I could know that I knew something is if I could turn around and teach it to somebody else, right? So teach something new every day, learn something new every day. Really lean into that idea of curiosity, because then you'll have so much more to offer people. When I wrote my chapter in the book Awareness Put Me On last year, one of the things that I talked about was the importance of being able to serve people from your overflow, right? You have so much to give, so much to offer that it just overflows out of you. And the only way that happens is if you're constantly filling your cup with new ideas, new thoughts, new experiences. So really leaning into curiosity helps that. Instead of, the other side of that is you're feeding into people from, the tiny bit that you have left inside of you, right? You don't want to be that way. So again, that importance of filling yourself with new ideas, with new experiences, new thought processes, and curiosity goes hand in hand with making sure that happens. And then the last thing about how curiosity fuels the creativity is that it really helps break your comfort zones. Whoa, a little tongue twister there. So when you think about it, it's so easy for us to be like, oh, this is my comfort zone. This is what I like to do. These are the things that I'm great at. Break free from that. Try something new. In this period of my life, and I was talking to my dad yesterday, and I said, hey, my new thing is I try hard things every single day. If I finish my day, if I get in bed and I was like, wow, the day went completely smooth, there wasn't a moment where I got frustrated, there wasn't a moment where I had to pause and watch a YouTube video or reach out to somebody to ask a question. I did not try hard enough to try hard things today. So really embrace these moments of trying hard things, being in this space where you're going against all of your comfort zones. Again, it's probably going to be extremely weird and a little bit uncomfortable at first, especially for those of us who like to be known as masters in our field and things along that nature. But the amount of growth that can occur outside of your comfort zone is phenomenal and well worth the discomfort of pushing through it. And then the last thing that I want to talk about is around a couple of different ways to help cultivate creativity as an entrepreneur. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the whiteboard really quickly. All right, let's see if I can get this to work. So when you're thinking about cultivating creativity as an entrepreneur, the first thing here that you're going to want to make sure you keep in mind is embracing a beginner's mindset. So embrace. I'm sorry that my handwriting is not the best. Right, a beginner's mindset. So we talked about that a little bit already. And this really aligns to the idea of how do you approach problems as if you're learning about them for the first time? How do you put on this mindset, excuse me, of, hey, pretend I'm not the professional in this situation. If I wasn't the professional, if I wasn't the most, knowledgeable person in this room, how would I look at this problem? What type of solutions would I bring? What kind of questions that I would ask? Almost like putting yourself in the mindset of the person that you're looking to serve. The second thing when you think about cultivating creativity is, let's see here. Engage in diverse. I'm running out of space. I'm just going to write here. Experiences. And I wrote too large. Engage in diverse experiences. So when you think about that, right, try something new. So whether it's a new hobby, maybe you travel, maybe you read outside your industry. And sometimes it's even just going in a different environment, right? Like for me, in that story that I shared earlier about that idea that I had around here's what a 10-week program would look like, putting it in place, all of that. I came up with that idea outside in the garden, right? Like not in front of my desk, not in a planning session. Like I literally was outside, digging holes for my plants to go in, and these ideas just came to me. So don't be afraid to try out some diverse experiences and see what comes about. So the last two things in there. So the third one, practice brainstorming without judgment. I'm just going to practice brainstorming. Oh, and that did not all get on the screen. I'm so sorry. So practice brainstorming without judgment. So sometimes when people brainstorm, you brainstorm within the confines of what you feel makes the most sense, right? So sometimes you don't even allow yourself to think outside of the box. And for me, one of the things that has been very, very helpful is I'll go to my whiteboard, and before my sister got me a fantastic whiteboard, I would just go to this giant mirror that I have in my bedroom, and I would grab a pen or dry erase marker, and I would say, okay, 30 seconds go. Every single idea that I have on a topic, I'm writing it down. It doesn't matter if it sounds crazy. It doesn't matter if I don't know how to execute it. I am just brainstorming. I'm not allowing myself to prejudge my ideas. Let me just throw them all out on the table and see what makes sense. So just write down all your ideas, even the wild ones, like I said, before you even evaluate them, and don't let that creativity stop. You will be surprised with the things that you come up with when you don't put a cap on what it is that you're allowed to do. And then the last one, and this one is probably one of my favorites. Surround yourself with creative people. So collaborate with others who challenge your thinking, right? If there are people in your sphere who, encourage you to think outside the box, if there are people who encourage you and push you to, maybe look at things differently, surround yourself with them. Don't be afraid to really lean into those relationships and really, figure out how can you adapt some of their processes. And then last one, bonus one, and I touched on it a little bit on engaging in diverse experiences. So don't be afraid to schedule downtime, right? Whether that is away from your desk, away from your space, but really just give yourself the freedom to kind of allow your mind to wander. Creativity often strikes in moments of rest. At least for me, I have found the moments when I step away from, really focusing on a project, it's almost like my subconscious starts coming up with ideas for me. So schedule that downtime. So again, when you think about the 5 ways to go about creating creating and cultivating creativity. It's embracing that beginner's mindset, engaging in diverse environments and experiences, practicing brainstorming without judgment, surrounding yourself with creative people, and then that bonus one in there, scheduling downtime. So when you think about it, creativity really can be your secret weapon as an entrepreneur, and creativity is really going to be that fuel for you all that help keep it alive. So my call to action for you going into the weekend is really take some time to reflect on your own curiosity. If there's a really awesome way that you feel that you cultivate creativity, please go ahead, drop it in the comments. We would love to hear that from you. And as always, if possible, subscribe to our channel. Would love to, be able to engage with you guys. We will be doing these videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, sharing things from the entrepreneur journey and ways for you to progress and get to that corporate escapee life as well. So thank you all for your time, and I hope that everybody